Our kids are learning. It's not from what we tell them, but it's from what we show them. Your son is watching, and he's learning what it means to be a husband. And it's not from what you tell him about treating women, it's about what he observes you doing. You think you're modeling strength, and you're actually modeling emotional unavailability. You think you're showing them how to be a man, but you're showing them how to be isolated. Kids will believe what we do every single time. You can tell them all day what matters, but what they're going to believe is what you show them. What you're showing them is that work matters more than they do, that comfort matters more than connection, that achievement matters more than life. Our kids are learning. It's not from what we tell them, but it's from what we show them. They're watching how we handle pressure and how we treat their mother, how we respond to things when things aren't going our way. It's how we show up when we're tired, and when we prioritize, and what we prioritize when no one's looking. And then they start drawing conclusions about what matters, about what the strength really looks like, and about what it means to be a man, about what marriage actually is, and not what you say it should be, what they're actually seeing it being. And so this episode is all about the curriculum that we're teaching without even realizing it, because our kids aren't just living with us, they're learning from us every single day. And let's get started. I want to start with something simple. What do our kids see when we come home? Not what we intend to show them, but what they actually observe. We walk in the door, maybe we're tired, we've been handling things all day, and so what happens next? Do we greet them? Do you ask about their day? Are we making eye contact with them? Or do we just head straight to our phone? Maybe it's our laptop or the next thing on our plate. They notice. They may not say anything, but they're noticing. And they notice whether this presence is but they notice. They notice whether their presence registers with you. And they notice whether we light up when we see them, or whether we're already thinking about that next thing that we need to handle. And they also notice whether we're actually there or we're just physically present while mentally we're in some other place. And so what happens? They start to draw conclusions, not consciously and maybe not in words, but practically. They learn Dad's presence is conditional. And when he's stressed, we don't exist. And when he's focused on work, we need to wait. And when he's available, we take it because we know it won't last. Now, let's move to the dinner table. What do we see at the dinner table? Do they see us being present, asking questions, listening to their answers, and actually getting engaged with what's happening? Or do they see us distracted? Maybe we're checking our phone or responding to messages, thinking about something else while mechanically we're just shoveling our face. And they notice whether we're with them or we're just near them. They notice whether those conversations with them are actually mattering to you or whether you're just tolerating them until you can get back to what you were doing. And here's what they're learning: that time with family is an obligation, not a choice. And so Dad shows up because he has to, not because he wants to. And presence, then it becomes performative. It's about being seen, but not actually being there. Now, let's have a look at what our weekends look like. What do they see us doing on Saturday? Do they see us choosing to be with them, or do they see us fitting them in between the other things that are on our plate? Working in the morning, maybe we're handling projects in the afternoon, and finally available in the evening when we're exhausted and when they get what's ever left over. And they notice that order. They notice what gets your best energy and what gets the leftovers. And they also notice what you're protecting and what you're willing to squeeze in. And so they learn. They learn that they're just not the priority. We're what Dad does after everything else gets handled. So I have a question for you. What are your kids observing about where they rank in your actual priorities? Not your stated ones, but your actual ones. So here's a hard one. Our kids are learning what marriage is by watching us, not by listening what we say about marriage, but truly watching how we actually treat our spouse. When you and your wife disagree, what are they seeing? Do they see you engage? Do they see you listen? Do they see you work through something together? Or do they see you shut down, dismiss, redirect, leave the room, go silent? Again, they're learning. They're learning when marriage gets hard, men check out. When you talk to your wife, what do they see? Do they see that you respect her? Do they see kindness? Do they see that you're interested in what she thinks? Or do they see you impatient, interrupting, correcting, managing her like she's one more thing on your to-do list? Again, they learn that wives are to be managed and not partnered with. When your wife needs something from you, maybe it's attention or help, presence, what are they seeing? Do they see that you're responsive, or do they see that you become resentful? Annoyed maybe that she's asking, frustrated that she needs something, treating her need maybe as an interruption. And so they learn a good husband provides, and a good husband doesn't have to be emotionally available. And when your wife is upset, what do they see? Do they see you move towards her, or do they see you avoid her, waiting for it to pass? Hope that maybe she handles it on her own. Stay busy until she's better. Again, we're teaching them that women's emotions are problems to be avoided and not experiences to be shared. And so here's what you might not realize is that your son is watching, and he's learning what it means to be a husband. And it's not from what you tell him about treating women, it's about what he observes you doing. And if you have a daughter, she's learning too. She's learning what to expect from a husband. Again, and it's not by what you tell her that she deserves, but what she sees her mother tolerate. If you treat your wife like a co-parent, but not a partner. If you're civil, but not connected. If you're present, but not engaged. That's what they're learning that marriage is all about. And that's the model that they'll carry into their own relationships. And it isn't because you taught it, it's because you actually showed it. And so here's a question for you. What are your kids learning about marriage just by watching how yours is being conducted? Our kids are constantly forming conclusions about what strength looks like, and they do that by watching us. When something goes wrong, or when we're facing a setback, when something just doesn't work out, what are they seeing from us? Do they see us actually acknowledge it, process it, talk about it, show them how to handle that disappointment? Or do they see us bury it, push through, minimize it, maybe even pretend that it's not affecting us? So they learn that strong men just don't feel things, that strong men just keep moving. And when we're stressed, what do they see? Do they see us manage it and maybe acknowledge that there's pressure on, or maybe even asking for help? We show them that it's okay to be human. Or do they see us absorb it and get quiet, maybe distant, and just become unavailable until the stress passes? And so they learn that stress is something that you handle alone, and that real men don't need support. And when you make that mistake, what do they see? Do they actually see you owning it, admitting it, maybe having to apologize, showing them what accountability looks like? Or do they see you defend it, maybe even explaining it away and shift blame and just refuse to be wrong? So they're going to learn that admitting mistakes is going to be a weakness, and that real men are always right. And when you're uncertain about something, what do they see? Do they see that we had actually admit it? I'm not sure. I'm thinking through it. I just need to figure this out. Or do they see us hide it? We fake certainty, project confidence even though we don't feel it, and never let them see any doubt. Again, they're going to think that uncertainty is unacceptable and that real men always know what to do. But there's a problem in that. When you think you're teaching them resilience, what you're actually teaching them is suppression. When you think you're modeling strength, when you're actually modeling emotional unavailability. You think you're showing them how to be a man, but you're showing them how to be isolated. Because strength that requires you to be alone isn't strength. It's self-sufficiency masquerading as a virtue. And our kids, they're learning that model. So what version of manhood are your kids learning by watching how you handle difficulty? And so I have the most painful one here to talk about. Our kids aren't learning what actually matters. They're not listening to what we say, but by watching what gets our attention. And so you tell them that family is important, but what do they see? They see you work late? Do they see you miss dinners? Do they see you on your phone at their games? Do they see you distracted during their stories? See, they see that you choose work over them again and again. And so they learn that family is important in theory, but work is more important in practice. So you tell them to prioritize relationships. But what do they actually learn from us? They see us avoid difficult conversations. They see us choose peace over honesty. They see us manage conflict by not engaging with it. And so they learn that relationships matter, but not enough to risk discomfort for. So you tell them that success isn't everything. But again, what do they see? They see us sacrifice everything for success. They see you measure your worth by your output. They see you anxious when you're not achieving. And so they learn that success might not be everything, but it's what dad actually lives for. And so you tell them to be present. But again, what do they see? They see that we truly are never present. We're always thinking about the next thing, partially distracted. Mentally, we're somewhere else. And so they learn that presence is an aspiration and not a practice. And so here's what's happening. There's this gap between what you say and what you actually do. And our kids will believe what we do every single time. You can tell them all day what matters. But what they're going to believe is what you show them what truly matters by how you allocate your time, your attention, and your energy. And right now, what you're showing them is that work matters more than they do, that comfort matters more than connection, that achievement matters more than alignment. And not because you're saying it, but you're living it. And so if your kids had to name your actual priorities based on what they observe, not what you're telling them, what would they say? And here is truly the hardest truth. Your kids are also drawing conclusions about themselves. It's based on how you're treating them. It's based on how you respond to them. And it's based on what they observe about what their value is to you. And when they try to tell you something and you're distracted, the message they get is, what I have to say isn't important. And when they want your attention and you're busy, what they hear is, I'm an interruption. And when they need you and you're unavailable, they hear, my needs are inconvenient. And when they want to be with you and you're focused on something else, they hear, I'm not worth prioritizing. Now, I'm not saying they articulate it this way. I'm saying they feel it. And what they feel becomes what they believe about themselves. And if our presence is inconsistent, then they learn they're not worth the consistency. And if our attention is going to be conditional, they're going to learn that they have to earn our interest. And if our availability is limited, they're going to learn that they don't deserve any more. And here's what's going to happen over time. They stop expecting more from you. And it's not because they don't need it, and because they learned not to need what isn't truly available. So they adapt and lower their expectations, and they find what they need elsewhere. And you interpret that as, they're fine, they're independent, they don't need as much. But that's not what's really happening. What's happened is they've learned to need you less because needing you was too painful. And so question, what are your kids concluding about their worth based on how you treat them? And so let's try to summarize everything we talked about. We can't teach our kids one thing and model another. They will always believe the model. You can't tell them family matters and then show them that it's optional. And we can't tell them to be present and then show them that distraction is normal. We can't tell them that relationships require work and then show them that avoidance when things get hard. And so they're not listening to our advice. They're watching our life. And our life is teaching them what's actually true. Not what we wish to be true, but not what we say to be true, what we demonstrate to be true by how we're actually living. And so what do you want your kids to believe about manhood, marriage, strength, and what matters? And what are you actually showing them? Because the gap between those two things is the curriculum that they're learning. And so our kids won't tell us that they're learning the wrong things because they're not going to complain. They won't say, "Dad, you're teaching me that work matters more than people." They're just going to learn it. And they'll carry it into their own lives. And then your son will become the man you're showing him to be. And your daughter will expect from a husband what she sees you give. Not because you told them, but because you showed them. And so the legacy you're building isn't in what you're saying, it's in what they're seeing. And what they're seeing is being built in real time. It's every day, it's in every interaction, it's every choice where your attention goes. They're watching, even when you're not there. Gentlemen, the band of brothers is where fathers learn to close this gap between what they say and what they model. And if that's where you're at, you know what to do.
Thank you for listening to the Revolutionary Man podcast. Are you ready to own your destiny? To become more the man you are destined to be? Join the brotherhood that is The Awakened Man at theawakenedman.net and start forging a new destiny today.